Some critics are calling it a thinly veiled attempt to discriminate, but supporters are saying Indiana's new law protecting people's rights to exercise their religious freedom. Now, the backlash has been quick. Demonstrators have been vocal. Indiana's governor spoke out today calling for some changes to the bill. It's one that Texas has with a few differences. We've got more on those things in a moment, but first Miguel Marquez sets the scene.
No hate in our state! No hate in our state!
Protest and anger across Indiana. Gays, lesbians, and their supporters rallying in opposition to SB 101, the so-called Religious Freedom Restoration Act.
I have 2 kids that could possibly not be served because somebody doesn't believe in me being married to another woman.
Opponents say the law could be used by businesses to turn gays and transgender customers away if a business feels their religious freedom is being violated. It came about after Indiana was forced to allow same-sex marriages last year. Supporters say businesses will no longer be forced to support same-sex marriage.
It's crazy because we just made gay marriage legal in October, and it's like one step forward, 1,000 steps back.
Indiana Governor Mike Pence, who signed the bill in private, dodged over and again on ABC's This Week whether the bill could prompt discrimination.
Yes or no? If a florist in Indiana refuses to serve a gay couple at their wedding, is that legal now in Indiana?
George, this is where this debate has gone with misinformation and frankly,
it's just a question, sir. Yes or no?
Well, there's been shameless rhetoric about my state.
Governor Pence said the bill would stand, no changes. Members of his own party in the state legislature weren't so sure.
Clearly, there's unsettled waters right now, right? And that could have far-ranging impact. We determined we needed to step in and be sure that those waters are calmed, and if that requires a legislative clarification, that's what we're working on.
20 states currently have religious freedom laws on the books. Some of those states also specifically protect rights based on sexual orientation. Opponents say the problem with Indiana's law, it's broad. Any person or business could seek protection based on religious beliefs, free of government involvement. Utah has a similar constitutional amendment just introduced in the state house that would take effect in 2017. There are protests in Arkansas where the governor has a bill similar to Indiana's on his desk. The first Religious Freedom Act became federal law under Democrat Bill Clinton in 1993. It had bipartisan support and aimed to protect individuals' religious rights against government intrusion. In 1997, states started passing their own religious freedom laws after the Supreme Court ruled the federal law didn't apply to them. More recent controversy over gay marriage has pushed some states to adopt increasingly broad religious freedom protections. Indiana's law has put the state in the line of fire. Comedians are taking aim.
You'll be able to tell which stores are supporting the new law because they'll have these helpful little signs.
The story there noted that Texas also has a Religious Freedom Restoration Act, and one that it says the government does not need to be a party. Texas and Indiana are the only 2 states that have that language, but the Washington Post notes a couple of differences in the Texas and Indiana acts. First, the Texas Act says that a person would need to have been substantially burdened before proceeding. Indiana's act says the person would likely have to have been substantially burdened with a lower threshold. And then the Post here notes the Texas law makes it clear that existing civil rights law is not trumped by the RFRA, something a member of the American Civil Liberties Union backed up. Here's Indiana's governor this morning on the next step forward.
I believe Hoosiers are entitled to the same protections that have been in place in our federal courts for the last 20 plus years and in the law in 30 other states. But clearly, there's been misunderstanding and confusion and mischaracterization of this law. And I come before you today to say how we're going to address that. We've been working over the last several days, literally around the clock. Been talking with people across the state of Indiana, talking to business leaders, and talking to organizations around the country. This law does not give anyone a license to discriminate. The Freedom Restoration Act in Indiana does not give anyone the right to deny services to anyone in this state. It is simply a balancing test used by our federal courts and jurisdictions across the country. I don't believe for a minute that it was the intention of the General Assembly to create a license to discriminate or a right to deny services to gays, lesbians, or anyone else in this state. And it certainly wasn't my intent. But I can appreciate that that's become the perception, not just here in Indiana, but all across this country. And we need to confront that, and confront it boldly in a way that respects the interests of all involved. After much reflection, and in consultation with leadership of the General Assembly, I've come to the conclusion that it would be helpful to move legislation this week that makes it clear that this law does not give businesses a right to deny services to anyone. Let me say that again. I think it would be helpful, and I'd like to see on my desk before the end of this week legislation that is added to the Religious Freedom Restoration Act in Indiana that makes it clear that this law does not give businesses a right to deny services to anyone. We want to make it clear that Indiana is open for business.